Hello everybody, welcome to today's My Game Show. We are, as you can probably see, in our holiday home in Wales, which is why I'm appropriately dressed.
I am appropriately dressed in this t-shirt, but I've got a little mark on my t-shirt as well.
You didn't have to tell it to people. People didn't necessarily know.
Everyone will be watching that and drawn to it now, I would think.
Obviously. So, welcome everybody and welcome Mike to your own show.
Thank you very much. Absolute pleasure to be here. Live from sunny Towyn on the Welsh Riviera.
Quite cloudy, actually.
Yeah, cloudy, yeah, whatever.
So, today we're going to be talking about the 4 things that all business owners need to know. Now, Mike, should we just go straight into it?
Yeah.
What are the 4 things that all business owners need to know?
But if I tell you now, everyone would leave, wouldn't they? So let's just save that. No, I'll tell you what it is, right? That what you need to know is what your business needs to deliver for you. And we're going to break that down to very, very specific levels, because imagine buying a plot of land and thinking I'll build a house there and start digging out foundations, fill it with concrete and putting bricks on. Well, how do you know that house is going to be right for you? How do you know that it's future-proofed? How do you know you've got exactly the right number of rooms? You've got your games room, your garage for 3 cars instead of 2. How do you know the land is big enough to fit all your cars for your kids on when they don't leave home? Until they whenever. But the idea is that you design, well, first of all, you list out your requirements.
3 bedrooms, 2 en-suites.
Whatever it might be. Then you get a designer design that for you to make sure it's exactly what you want, and then you build it. And yet, weirdly, business owners don't tend to do that. They just, using the same analogy, dive in with the shovels basically and start digging, really. And it's true. And it's really important to decide exactly what you want from your business before you start to build it. The interesting thing really is what are they? What are those things? What are those drivers that your business is doing for you? And that's what we're going to dig into today. Because once you specify and once you know what it is, then you can design the business which will deliver it. So for my private clients, as you know, the first thing I do with them is we get them to answer these 4 questions to specify what they want from the business. Then we can design a version of their business which will deliver it. It ain't difficult to do that. Anyone can do it. And then you know where you are now and where you're going, and it gives them massive clarity to your business and what you have to do for it. Otherwise you just get in there and think, I'll just do a bit more business or whatever.
I'll do this, which is what I know how to do. I know how to sell. I know how to recruit. I know how to legal thing.
And it might not sound very much, just talking about it now, you're thinking, well, that's a bit lame ass, really. Honestly, I've seen so many businesses over the last 33 years not deliver what the owner actually expected. And it's such a sad thing when that happens. Don't be that person. So what we're going to do in the rest of the show is dig into those 4 different things that your business must deliver for you. At least 3 of them for sure. The 4th one is optional. It's a bit, okay, see how we do.
Yeah. And so we are going to go into each individual one in a second. But before we do that, I do want to draw a really strong point here is we're not saying that your business has to be doing these things now. That's not what we're saying at all. We're saying that you should have a plan to work towards these. You should know where you're going. You should have the end in mind. Isn't that the saying?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Start with the end in mind. It's one of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But it's you just won't be able to do them all now, because if you did, then your business has finished. It's done its thing, really.
Yeah.
This is about building something for the future, and it's massively important.
Okay, so before we get into them, I'm just going to ask anybody who's listening, do you actually know what you want from your business? Please let us know in the comments. Do you have an idea of where you want your business to be? And please let us know. So, Mike, whilst people are writing in the comments, what's number 1 of the 4 things all business owners need to know?
Number 1 is lifestyle, right? And that's 2 things that are interconnected: money and time. So if you start a solo business, you're a solopreneur, in theory, the more you work, the more you earn. The more you work, the less time you have to enjoy the money that you earn. And it can be quite a toxic combination, actually, because certainly in my own experience, there was a period in the 90s where I worked a lot. Actually, at the beginning of it, didn't have any money either, really. But that's very common, isn't it? You're working to establish the foundations of your business, and then one day it'll start to pay out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that doesn't always happen, actually, for starters. You know, business owners tend to put themselves last. It's very common. It's not a great thing to do, but we make sure everyone else is okay and not ourselves. This is really bad. What do you want? You're taking all the risks for this damn business. You're putting yourself out. You're risking your family, your health, your waistline, in my case, I'm afraid.
5-figure of a man.
I know, 5-figure of 3 men, actually. But, you know, what do you want from it? And the important thing here is to break the link between how much you work and how much you earn.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the definitions of a scalable business, right? So you break the link, you earn more but work less, then your business is truly scalable, right? And that's something that I'm passionate about. You know, our job is scalability, and I'm the scalability coach, blah, blah, blah. But that's what it comes down to, is to be able to break that link, because then you've got the money to enjoy the lifestyle that you want, and you've got the time.
Yeah. I mean, how many people do we know that have, you know, either the money to do stuff, but they've got no time because they're working all the hours that God sends, or they've got the time to do things, but because they're not earning anything, they've got no money. You know, it's not what you want. It's not what you dreamt of when you became a business owner.
No, it isn't. No, and I'll tell you something else as well, actually. I know a lot of people with reasonably sized businesses who've still not got a lot of time or money because they keep reinvesting the dough into the business, or they keep hiring expensive salespeople or whatever it is. And it's always jam tomorrow. We'll get the money, we'll get it tomorrow. In actual fact, right up front, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
How much right now would you want as income?
Yeah.
To give you a reasonable lifestyle? We always say, oh yeah, £1 million. Realistically, is it 70 grand, 100 grand, 150 grand, whatever it is, to be able to do the things you want to do?
Yeah.
And how much time do you want? So specifically,
how many weeks holiday do you want a year?
Yeah, sure. 10 weeks holiday. Just put that down.
At least.
That's done, right? 10 weeks holiday a year. How many days a week do you want to work? Now, this is aspirational for most people, because at the beginning, obviously, you're going to be working very hard. And I get that. But if you don't do this, you'll continue to work very hard and there'll be no end to it. So just knowing and specifying what the amount of money that you're looking for and how much you want to work to get it will make you think and act in a certain way. I promise it absolutely does.
Yeah, and it makes you think about the things that are important to you. You know, is it your family? Do you have kids? Is it your dog? Some people, my mother loves the dogs more than she loves me, genuinely. Is it a hobby that you've got? Is it travel? Whatever it is, figure out what's important to you and then figure out what you need with these. Again, aspirational, not what you have now.
Yeah.
Aspirational. Now, we have had a couple of comments. Judith, this is probably the most common answer that we say to people. Do you know what your business? Do you know what you want from your business?
Before we move from Judith, right? Let me thank you for that, Judith. If you can't document it and write it down, you haven't. I have this a lot when I start to work with people. Okay, do you know what you want? Oh yeah. Well, what is it then? Oh, don't really know. No, I like it written at the beginning of the business plan, the personal section of the business plan. This is what the business is going to do for me, and when you can write it down, it's real.
Okay, perfect. So at this point, you have figured out what you want lifestyle-wise in your business. You figured out how much money you want to be vaguely earning and how much time, so holiday, when you finish early, how many days a week you work, whatever that may be, how many lunches you get to take. If Barry's listening, it's all about lunches. So what's the second thing, Mike?
Job satisfaction. In other words, what you do when you go to work. We were talking off air before we came on, and I remember in the first business, when we first set up, first little office we had to clean the toilets out because we couldn't afford a clean out. So we cleaned the office and we took it in turns. We had the toilet rotor to clean the toilets. It's not a particularly nice thing to do, but we did it because you kind of have to, really. That wasn't on the top of my list, really. That's obvious, but but we all do stuff that we just do because no one else is there to do it. We just think, oh, I'll get it done. This is not what the business is supposed to do for you.
It's not why you started your own business. Most people started their own business to do the things that they enjoyed.
And the things you're good at, because normally those two things are together. Things you're good at are the things that you like. So it's important to have that list. And we've had a couple of people on the show. We had Dwelter, who came on a few weeks ago, and he was talking about building a virtual team to get rid of some of the stuff that you're not good at or don't like doing. But also we had Caroline on who was talking to us about time management, and she said, well, start by just writing down the stuff that you love to do and that you're good at, and the stuff that you'll do because no one else is doing it, and the stuff you defo need to get rid of. You just need to do it and begin the process in the plan of writing down the way you'd like your world to be. Because I tell you now, when you write it down, you're much more likely to achieve it. And if you don't know what it is, you're not clear. You need to work a little harder.
Yeah. So that would be involving hiring people, which will either be virtual, which we're a huge fan of, or you can actually have employees.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's the only way you can scale, really, unless
Yeah.
you're a pop singer or something, or
even they have employees.
Video star, they do, yeah, but they can just produce something and then sell it a million times. But unless you're in that space, if you're selling your expertise or your time, a lot of people are, then the only way you can do this is to hire more people. That's the deal. And you can hire them personally or virtually as a virtual assistant. I don't really care what it is. Or you can carry on cleaning the toilets, metaphorically speaking, you know. So
maybe actually, never know.
Or maybe actually, who knows?
You never know. Okay, so what we've done now is we sort of figured out what lifestyle we want our business to give us. We figured out the time and the money.
We've done.
We've figured out
what we need to do,
what we like doing and what we enjoy doing and what we want to get rid of and how we could potentially do that. What's number 3, Mike?
The big one, really. What does financial independence look like for us? Right now, this is something that just creases me, really. It's these are numbers. This isn't about, well, if I don't know what it is, it'll go away or it won't matter. There'll come a point when you don't want to work anymore or you want to slow down. And at that point, your income has to come from something else, not your work, right? And so if you know exactly how much income you need, you can work out the size of the pot that will generate it, roughly speaking. Now, we're going to work this out for you now. I'm going to work it out for Kirsty online. The document that this is coming from, if you want a copy of it, so you can do it for yourselves, just DM me and I'll just send it to you. It's no big deal. But what I would say is this is only a bit of fun, really, to give you an indicator. To do this properly, you need an IFA to work out a lifetime cash flow for you. And you had it done, didn't you, Kirsty? I've had it done since the early 90s, every single year. Every single year I've checked in with my financial advisor.
It's illuminating. Let's use that word. Let's not use the word fearful or scary. It's nice to know because it helps you to work towards something. And when you're doing things that you don't like doing, you're thinking, I'm doing this so I can have my one holiday abroad a year or whatever it might be.
Well, not knowing it doesn't change anything. No. You need to know, because then you can make decisions. And I'll tell you 2 things here. Time is, you can't buy more time. All you can do is push out the amount of time that you work. If the numbers don't stack up, you've got to work longer or take less. I mean, there's not, it is what it is, really. Also, compound interest is your friend.
You will see that in a second.
So the sooner that you start to invest privately, the better. Now, quick heads up on this. In our next webinar, in our autumn webinar in September, more on this in a future show, I'm going to be talking about the kind of business that generates cash. It's called the cash cow lifestyle business. And I'm going to explain what it looks like and how you build it and all the things that go with it. And the idea is it makes enough cash, not only for you to have the lifestyle that you want, obviously, but also for you to suck the money out and invest it privately, especially if you've got a business that you won't be able to sell, because that's the only chance that you've got. Now, dentists and lawyers and accountants have been doing it for years, right? They can make a lot of money, but they're not necessarily worth a lot of money. So they suck the money out and invest it elsewhere. You can do the same.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but the first thing you need to know is, of course, is how much is enough.
Yeah. So actually, before we go into this, I would be interested to see if anybody else has done this, because I'd like to know beforehand. But if not, we're about to show you. So here we go. Just go to the magic number.
We've only got one screen today.
Yeah, so bear with us.
Okay, so this table is in a document called the magic number calculator, because this is what the IFAs call it, your magic number, right? So fair enough. So as you can have a copy of this, as I said. So okay, Kirst, when you retire, in today's money, how much dosh do you want?
Let's not be greedy. Let's say 75.
75 big ones, right?
Let's say 75.
Okay. So when do you think you might retire?
Well, let's say 55. So that's another 25 years.
Right. So 55, and you'll be living until you're 90, will you?
I would hope so. Nanny's 93.
55. So that's 35 years, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So you are going to need a pot of just over £1 million. Okay, that's the size of the pot you're going to need.
Okay.
as things stand at the moment. Let's go down to the next table then. £1 million, which is there.
Yeah.
And how long are you going to have to work before you reach 55?
About 25 years, give or take.
Okay, so you are going to have to put aside right now from today,
yeah,
£18,226 a year net. So that's net. You will have paid tax to get that. So that's about 30, 35 grand or something like that, whatever it will be. That you need to draw out of your business now to invest every single year to get that. Now, interestingly, if she leaves it for 5 years, right, you're then obviously going to be investing for 20 years, not 25 years. So you're going to invest 27,000, which is closer to 50 grand or something gross. Who knows what the tax regimes will be?
Or I might have to push my retirement to 65.
Yeah, in which case then obviously.
In which case I'd only have to say 9 grand a year, so it's halved.
Yeah, right. So, and that's compound interest for you. I think this is all based on about 6% annual growth and whatever it is. It's all in the book. But yeah, thank you. Come back to that now.
Yeah.
But the point of that process, and I do that with all of my clients because I need to know what this business needs to generate. That's really important. No sense kidding yourself. And also the idea of showing you that was what we don't want is for people to sort of, well, I'll put it off for 5 years. You know, I'll think about that later. Well, yeah, you could do. It's just making the number bigger, exponentially bigger, because compound interest is your friend. So you really need to figure out that magic number. Now, my advice to you, yeah, you can get a document and you can do like a finger in the air, but as the disclaimer says, that I'm not an IFA, I'm not qualified to do this for you. What this is meant to do is to make you realize how important it is to get it done. Go and see an IFA. Get the number and then understand what you need to do. Then you can begin to build a business which is going to generate that for you. You know, so, and that's massively important. I can tell you, I could name 3 people who I would class as close-ish friends, but within my inner circle, who have all been surprised, panicked, and filled with despair because they reached a stage where they realized that the numbers didn't add up and they had to work longer. One in particular, it was heartbreaking. So don't be that guy. That's my advice.
No. Okay. All right. So what we've done so far is we figured out what we want from our business, money, time-wise. We figured out what we like to do and what we want to get rid of when it comes to our job.
And our magic number.
And now we've figured out our magic number, that when we retire, when we stop working, how much we need in order to make that.
But more importantly, how much do we need to invest to get it?
Yes, exactly. So those are what you referred to as the big 3, right, Mike? Those are the big 3 that pretty much every business owner is going to have to do. But you did say there's sort of a 4th, which is not optional, but only relevant to certain people, I think is how you describe it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's legacy. It's basically what do you want to be remembered for or known for. And the figures seem a bit vague on that, but I can give you anecdotal figures from my own clients. Only about 25%-ish, 30% care, really. In fact, I was dealing with one client, took him on, did this process from the engagement process, went through, beginning to specify all these, fill in the blanks, you know, make it all work, and came to legacy and said, I couldn't give a toss. I couldn't care less. As soon as I've got the other 3, right, well, actually, as soon as number 3 is sorted, as soon as I've got the magic number, I'm turning the lights off. That's it. I don't care.
No,
and you may be that person. I'm very relaxed about that. It's not my job to tell you whether you should leave a legacy or not. But if you are the kind of person that wants to build something and be known for it, then the sooner that you know what that is and what it looks like, the sooner you can put it together and build it. And going back to the analogy we used of a house, if legacy is a requirement, then it needs to be designed in really early on. You know, and I've sold 2 businesses. The first one, the name disappeared within 3 months of me leaving. It became part of Modis, and then that's now part of Adecco. So whatever's left of my business swilling around in Adecco somewhere. The second business, Crimson, still exists, and I suspect will exist for some time to come because Harvey Nash recognised it was a strong brand and kept it, which was awesome. So if that's the kind of thing you're interested in, you need to build a business which is going to survive. Could be anything though, really, but I think that's just for some people, not for others.
Yeah, I would say so. Okay, so we've had quite a few questions and comments that I like to bring up. Joanne made a really important point as well when we're talking about lifestyle, is that some people die before they get to to retire. So
Yeah.
having a business that whilst you're in it.
Well, your granddad was 60 when he
Yeah,
died,
just stop.
and he was living for his retirement, and he never came. I feel for you, Jan, because you know, I think you have to enjoy the journey. It isn't just about jam tomorrow, is it?
No.
I think yeah. We all know, work hard now, sacrifice now, then it will come. Yeah, but to a point.
Yeah.
I wiped out the 90s. I've got no recollection of most of them, and not because I took a lot of drugs, probably, but it was more to do. I did drink a lot, to be honest, but it was more to do. I was obsessed with work, kidding myself that I was doing it for the family, and I wasn't really.
Yeah, because we would come down here and be playing on the beach and doing all sorts of things and see you a couple of weekends.
Yeah,
maybe.
That's just not the way, really. Make sure that journey is a good one too.
Yeah, what Joanne's doing, which I really respect. You know, working 3 days. Oh, it's the dream, Joanne.
Yeah.
Absolutely dream. Yeah.
So you've got number one licked, obviously.
Yeah,
there,
you're under control. And then when we're talking about the magic number, Judith checks in with her IFA.
There you go.
Joanne checks it with an IFA. You guys are ahead of the curve. You're doing well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, Mike, Gavin's got an interesting point here, which is he's in a fire group, and they say you don't need to have the full pot when you retire. You can retire early and make wise investments and live off them. What would you say about that?
I'm not an IFA. Hey, look, if that's what the experts are telling you, that's absolutely fine. That's not what I've been told myself, but it's not for me to say. I like the idea that I have split investments. When I sold the first business, right, because I didn't do any of this in the 90s, I just sort of build and sell. That's a risky strategy. Don't do that, right?
So young and stupid.
Yeah, I was young. I didn't know any better. He will build and sell in 5 years and I'll be rich, right? So, but it worked out for me, which is great. But when we came to invest, someone said to me, well, a third in property, a third in shares, equities, and a third in some cash-based thing, bonds or whatever. And that's what I've pretty much done all the way through. And it served me very well. But I think that's the point again in an IFA, that you trust. And if the one that you've got, Gavin, is that's what they want you to do, go for it. You know?
I would say it's about risk as well. Some people are more risk averse than others. And I would again, I'm not an FA either, but that sounds more risky to me. And I'm quite risk averse. So it's not necessarily an option I would choose, but everybody chooses different options.
Yeah. I mean, but you can see the numbers. They have this software that plans it all out for you.
Oh, and even stuff like how many kids you'd have, and it alters everything. And if one of them, so dyslexia runs in our family, do we have to send one of them to private school so they can get the extra help that they need, or do we have to hire a tutor? That means that
was Thomas.
That was Thomas. Can we help out with stuff like that, or how many foreign holidays are you going to do a year? If it's 2, it's this much. If it's 1,
daughters and weddings. Although, as it turns out, sons too. Actually, I had 2 of them. Yeah. You know, there was some cash.
There was. Okay, Mike. Now you really wanted to reiterate this point, didn't you? This is a point that you really wanted to.
Don't be that person when you look back on a business career that you probably enjoyed on a day-to-day basis. So I'm not saying it was a rubbish time. In fact, the opposite. You kind of get sucked into it. I think running a business can be intoxicating.
Dopamine when you win or get a client or make a client happy.
Man, you know, I'm in that space now, obsessed with it, and I always will be, I think. But Mrs. Ames is here to tell me different.
Less obsessed with it.
Less obsessed than I was. But anyway, so it's like on a day-to-day basis, it's absolutely thrilling and intoxicating and beautiful. It's just then you look back and think, well, I can only remember my holidays. It's like, what kind of life is that really? So by doing this, by planning out the way in which you want your world to be, A, you stand a much greater chance of achieving it, which means that B, you won't reach that stage where it's maybe not too late, but it's very late, when there is this surprise panic and despair, which is crushing. I've seen it. It's horrible. Don't be that guy.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So as per usual, I ask Mike for a practical small thing to do here. And Mike, because he's on his hollybobs, has pushed it today, haven't you? You've got 2. You've got 2 things. You know, and I like this. I'm allowing it.
I've got 2. So the first thing is to write down these drivers. Write them down. Specify them to the absolute. Leave nothing, no grey areas. It is what it is. Now, when I do it with my clients, it normally takes a couple of sessions. So I send them away with some questions to answer. They come back, we talk about it, realize that they haven't quite got the answers, do some more work. Sometimes it's a bit longer than that, a couple of sessions-ish. And then they end up with something which is complete, and they love it. Now, will the world be like that? Almost certainly not, because it changes. That's why you know, Joe and Judith see their IFA every 6 months or a year to kind of figure out whether they're still on track, whether still things are the way they should be. But also, I think that, you know, when you begin to, was it visualization? When you begin to see something, you think, yeah, and you're much more likely to build it. So document it out. Then what you can do, I know this isn't part of the thing.
You doing a third? You slipping in a third?
But then you can design. No, there it is. Look on the screen. Then you can design a business that delivers them, and that's the fun part for me. We do this with a lot of recruitment companies, so I can do it in my sleep. Really, you can work it out with a few facts and figures. You can say, well, okay, to deliver the lifestyle that you want and the business that you want, poof, it'll look like that, give or take. And then you just have to build it. It's that simple. And there's no sense kidding yourself that you can have what you want without building something to deliver it. It won't magically happen, you know. So that's my first thing, is document them, get them written out for sure.
First thing, okay. And what's your second thing?
Get that magic number. I know that's one of the four, so it's kind of like duplicates, but
reiteration.
It's so important. The other things you can kind of live with really, but the magic number is the all important one, because the longer you leave it, the harder it becomes to deliver.
And don't be an ostrich. I think so many people have this thing where, oh, I bury my head in the sand, or it's not important, I'll think about it. But then you don't want that shock. You don't want that, oh, I wish I'd started saving when I was 18 instead of when I was 75 or whatever. It makes a massive difference. So knowing, even if it's a little bit scary or not what you thought, means you can change it earlier, and it's more of a tweak rather than a complete overhaul. Whereas when you leave things later, it delays retirement, it delays things.
Another one of my clients, he's in his late 30s now. I suggested strongly that he went to see an IFA and introduced him to someone in particular. And the first thing he said to me, he said, I wish I hadn't spent so much money on Rolexes. I know whether it was a joke or what, I don't know, but I kind of think it wasn't really. But I think when you're younger, I've got loads of time, I just spend loads of money. A little bit of investment right then means that you have to invest a lot less later.
Yeah.
You can be where you need to be a lot quicker.
And I would also say what's really important about this is if you have a business partner, so if you are, partners, you have a partnership business, maybe your magic number is a little bit different to someone else's.
Hey, that's a really important point. And you need two magic numbers, right? Because you're both going to get what you want from the business.
Or maybe your drivers are different to somebody else, and so you need to figure out what your both businesses look like together, rather than getting to the end of it and being like, I want to settle on this person, being like, I want a legacy.
That's very common though. Again, that is terribly common. I read somewhere that cash management is the first reason, the most common reason for businesses to fail. The second one is partners falling out. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not, but do you know what? It seems about right. And this process, if you both do it separately, if there's two or three of you, bring it together, the business has got to deliver everybody's requirements. And it's going to mean you're going to have a conversation, an important conversation, sooner rather than later. Do it, guys. Do it.
Yeah, do it now. Okay, so before we come on to the round off and tell you what's next week, we just want to know, everybody who's listened, has this made you sort of realize what you're going to get from your business or what you want from your business? Has it made you think? Please let us know in the comments. Because
has it inspired you to action? I know this, when we came to write the promo for this, I was writing it, I'm thinking there's no way that I can make this sound sexy, and yet I know, because of my job, most people don't do it. So I know that it's just I know what that is, or I'll get around to it or something. It's not important. It so is important. And if even just one of you say, well, actually, because I'm going to do this has been well worth half an hour out of our holidays. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah. Did give me an excellent excuse to wear this shirt as well.
It's a marvellous shirt, really, yes. Yeah. And my face is a bit red, isn't it? I noticed.
Pink.
Pant dries.
If I move back a bit, it's sort of, no, there's pink. Yeah, there's pink. Yeah, but please let us know in the comments. So, Mike, next week, who are we talking to?
We've got Mr. Steve Guest back on the show. And he's just published a new book, a personal brand story. And the reason I wanted to come on the show is when we had Keisha on, it was 2-3 weeks ago. She came to talk about personal branding. It was one element of it, really, which was online, right? This thing that's going online. The way in which Steve has done it in his book, and I've just read his book actually, he's looking at it from a different perspective. So it's not better or worse than Keisha at all. And I'm sure there is a lot of crossover. But it blew me away. And I said, you've got to come on the show and talk about that. So he's going to come next week, and it's going to be great.
Okay, perfect. And I just got an excellent comment to leave with, which is from Gavin. His magic number 17 million.
We need to talk, Gav. Seriously.
I like that. I like a man who dreams big. Perfect. Right. Well, thank you so much for watching, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on our Hollybobs and listening to us talk. As always, we'll be here on Thursday when we close. But thank you for watching. Thank you to Mike.
Thank you, Kirsty. It's like a double act, isn't
I know.
it, really? I know. And we'll see you next week, guys. Bye.